Hello, everyone. This is John Lee, your local real estate agent in the greater Philadelphia area. I am here with Aaron and Janice. We are in it for a special treat. Not only are they experts in the real estate game and how I've actually been connected to them through real estate, but also Aaron specifically is doing a lot of things in the community with credit repair, and Janice, you are leading programs, right, for real estate classes and also for coaching more or less, right? And we'll get into that. So, if you guys can actually just share some information about yourselves and the work that you guys do.
So I'll let my husband go first.
Well, I'm a real estate investor, slash developer and credit repair specialist. And I didn't want to get into it, but I did behind my wife's back, and ended up working out. We actually almost broke up because of it. I'll let her go into that.
Oh, snap. Okay.
We did, yeah. So we actually started off with real estate investing first. We were actually about to get married. We were engaged at the time, and he wanted to get into real estate. I wanted no parts of it, and he actually went behind my back and signed up for a mentorship program. I was highly upset. Almost broke off the engagement because I'm like, if you're making a decision like this and spending money, like how are we going to be able to, move forward in life, which I'm sure that happens in a lot of couples where, one wants to do something, the other one doesn't. So at this point, we did still get married. He's still alive. And we actually have a pretty decent portfolio with about 16 doors at this point, and counting, some flips under our belt, buy and hold. I actually have an Airbnb, so we branched off from there. So it's funny because I completely took over the real estate portion of our business, like 100%. I project manage it. I'm the contractor. I do the design. I do everything. So from someone who didn't want anything to do with real estate, I now try to kick him out of the business all the time and be like, no, I got it. I'm picking the tile.
No, I find it so funny.
And then he branched off into credit. So, and then I branched off into Airbnb. So we kind of did our thing together, and then we also have some things apart. So it all.
No, I find it so funny, Janice. I didn't mean to cut you off, but anytime I ask for real estate advice, I'm always thinking like, okay, I'm gonna ask Aaron, but I hear in the background, "Yo, Janice, what is da 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 da?" And I'm just like, dude, Aaron,
Yes.
Aaron don't know shit, man. Like,
Yeah, he does that. He'll put them on hold now. He'll be like, babe. I'm like, okay,
She's in it every day, and she teaches it now. So
right.
It started off with me being a little bit sharper than her, and now she just.
So the program that he actually went behind my back and signed up for, I now actually help run.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think
there's that.
I think it's such a beautiful thing because it's literally not only have you gotten support, Aaron, right? But also you've like Janice, you're like fully submerged into this whole real estate thing. So
Yeah.
I didn't have necessarily a question about this, but I'd like to typically ask a question about this because of your dynamic being so unique. Like, how did you guys actually make it work? And what are some suggestions that you guys have for couples, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's transparency. Obviously, Aaron, that's probably something that we as men have to be better at with our our significant others, right? But in a perspective of a partner, Janice, like what do you have as far as recommendations for someone who wants to get into game and they have a spouse or partner that might not entirely be supportive of being in real estate?
So I would say, I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy going at first because I was not on board. I wasn't on it at all. I was forced to be in that position, which obviously causes some friction. So I didn't see the bigger picture. I would say the best thing you can do is communication. You have to be able to sit down and really explain what your goals are and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, because generational wealth that comes from real estate, right? I have, we have a daughter, so I really wasn't on that type of thought process at that time.
Right.
I loved HGTV, but that's not what I was into, right? So, as I got into it, because I was almost again forced to have to do it because he's more the dreamer, I'm more the logistics. So that works well in our relationship. Once I started to do that and kind of got involved in it, then I started to see, you know what, this actually he might be honest something. I didn't want to admit and tell him that he was right, because because that's the only time I'm gonna tell him that. But he was right, and and how we move forward. However, I'm not gonna say there wasn't trial and tribulations
Right.
going through the process. We would fight over dishwashers. Like we almost like we got married, but then there's a couple times where like, I left him at a property. I was like, I'm leaving. Like that was it. Like we were fighting. And it took somebody at Home Depot to actually say, like, what do you guys care? You don't live there. So sometimes you have to get outside. And I will say this, I love couples counseling. It helps not only within the relationship, but it also helps when you guys are business partners, because you're with each other every single day, in and out. And it's like, you don't get that break sometimes. So it can be difficult. I mean, I think I got irritated with you yesterday over something. Like it still happens, but you end up, church and state, right? So you end up just kind of saying, okay, well, you know what, that's enough. Maybe you cut off conversations at 8:00. And you guys have, set times to talk about work things and set times to still, go out as a couple and still do things, because the two can really get intermixed. So you have to find that work-life balance, I like to say, even when you work together as a partner. And then just make sure that whatever his strengths are, or whatever your weaknesses are his strengths, and vice versa, whatever his weaknesses are your strengths, so that you guys can work in the business together of operating in your strengths.
Right.
And figuring out where the other one has weaknesses.
And also, like she said, talking to other couples who are successful entrepreneurs, that helps too. When you're dealing with like high stress environments, in real estate, inspectors, all of that, you might take it out on her, and that might not even be the issue.
Right.
Happens. She come in with the wrong towel, and it ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Snapping on her, like, I told you not to get this towel, and it ain't even got nothing to do with
her. Or
the
contractors are late, and then he's coming in like, why isn't this done? And you're like, I've called them, and he might come and snap at me, where I'm not the problem.
She's not even the actual problem.
Right.
It's other things.
So you have to sometimes really think about, okay, what is the issue? What are the problems? What are the solutions? And not focus so much on who did what. Like, how do we just get this fixed? And we're still learning. It's still an ongoing process. It's still something that, we have to still work through. And then just even, like I said, talking to other people who have gone through it. And then even coming up with goal setting, things like that, sitting down, what are we going to do? What is our goal? What are we going to tackle? And then sometimes just being able to do your own thing too. That helps, because now you can kind of work on your own projects. You don't want to get so immersed that, you forget yourself and lose yourself in a relationship. You want to be together as one, but you still want to be able to do other things. Like, I don't want to do credit repair, but he does. So I support him and help him, and encourage him to do that. I want to do Airbnb. So I did that. So, we still come together, but we still have, our businesses that fall under that. And we still are able to be husband and wife at the same time.
No, that's such a
project right now that has nothing to do with her.
Right.
I mean, nothing to do with, and she has an Airbnb that has nothing
to do with him.
Do with me.
He tried to put input his time. He tried it, and I was like, no.
So.
No, that's a beautiful thing that it's so encouraging, because like, my wife, she has a very typical 9-to-5 job. So the scenario and the dynamic between my wife and I are obviously different than, two power couples, right? That are obviously entrepreneurs and entrepreneur in spirit. But I think one thing that you really touched on was the counseling part, which was huge. Prior to me getting married, I had marital counseling, and that was something that I highly recommend for a lot of people, because you even learn more about the meaning of marriage. For me, it was more the meaning of marriage and the actual oneness of it. When you're living kind of your own life for so long, you kind of forget that you have a partner. Our first year, like Jen and I, our first year being together was probably like the hardest time, because for me, I almost treated Jen like a roommate for the first year, not as a wife. And that was like the hardest thing that I had to adjust to. And part of that is just like men are just stupid. Like we I don't know how to explain it. But, like we had we're very straightforward in nature, right? So sometimes it was like these subtle things that like Jen was trying to tell me, but in reality it's like, you got to just tell me straightforward. It's like, it's black and white for me.
The easiest thing I would say is that if you guys just listen, we'll tell you. And I mean, even when it comes in working together, like you're saying, you really can fall into everyday life. You really can just honestly, we fell into it a couple times, and I'm like, we don't go out anymore. We don't do anything. All I do is house to home, house investing, house, home, house invest. It's the same cycle. And it's like, and I think I said it to you the other day, and I was like, we don't go anywhere. We didn't do anything. Like, we haven't lately. It's just been a lot that's going on. So you do have to, just like you schedule time to go out and go to the gym, or you schedule time to go to these houses and meet these inspectors, you need to schedule time with your significant other.
Of course. And that's a huge thing that I wanted to touch on. It's like the oneness of just making the decisions together, being with each other. I think that's extremely important. So, a little bit more about your personal journey. I know you guys have literally separate journeys, separate paths, but walk me through your how you grew up as a child all the way to the present, and just a little bit more about yourselves as as a person.
All right. Well, I grew up in the Philadelphia area, South Philly area, Philadelphia. Two-parent household, stepfather in the picture. So went to school, graduated, no college. Actually went to college later on, but like one semester, if you want to call that, and dropped out or whatever. Just worked a regular 9 to 5. Worked as an EMT in a hospital, and that's about it. You want to go?
Are you done? Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I would say so. I actually grew up different than he did. I grew up in the suburbs. I'm actually originally from Los Angeles, and then got relocated. My parents relocated us to the East Coast since my dad got transferred. And then I ended up. They actually they are now retired. They retired early, so they actually are living in Las Vegas. Hence why I started an Airbnb in Vegas. But they actually moved out there. I continue to stay here. Actually went to Temple University, so went to school, graduated. And then I actually was going to move to Vegas until I met this guy. So I'm still currently here on the East Coast. And then we live in the South Jersey area now. So we did kind of relocate back to suburbs. Obviously, he grew up in Philly. I went to Temple. So we did do that and relocate into South Jersey to be in the suburbs. But typical, same thing. I worked 9 to 5, graduated, worked a 9 to 5. And then ended up meeting you after that, and then just kind of fell into real estate, and then actually was laid off for my 9 to 5, and then did real estate full time after that during COVID.
Okay.
Actually.
So let's talk about that, Janice. Like, was that more of like, was that decision for you to go full time by accident, or was that like,
yes.
Okay.
I was forced into it, not forced.
Absolutely.
It was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. When you're being a mom, a wife, and you're running a full-time real estate, thing. And also at that time I was also coaching in real estate and working and doing some program directing for the program that I do run, and then working a 9 to 5, all, in conjunction. So it was a lot. So I don't know if it was a blessing in disguise or, something that kind of happened, because I did need a little relief. It's a lot. So it allowed me to be more involved with the day-to-day when I got, let go. And then, some other opportunities ended up falling into my lap. Obviously, being able to take over the program from a program director standpoint, and running that whole program with the mentorship and coaching and things like that, and allowing me to be able to do real estate. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So now I'm working, I don't want to say 9 to 5, but it is kind of a 9 to 5, but working within the field now, with real estate.
And how about you, Aaron? I know that you're still working a full-time job, running a credit repair, and then also being a real estate investor. Like, how are you bound? Like, obviously your lifestyles almost seem to be slightly different in that one works full-time, one has a, kind of a full-time job, a 9 to 5 still.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing, but it's like, I mean, what's your end goal? Yeah, your why has to be bigger than your how, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's a major lesson I learned. Yeah, your why definitely has to be bigger than your how, and just keep going. Like, that makes sense. Just you're gonna run into issues. Being an entrepreneur, see, this is the funny thing we know. When you watch entrepreneurship on the internet, they show you all the glitz and glams and the fixing of the house, the marble tile on the ceiling, and you're like, wow. But they don't show you the inspectors failing you and the electricians coming late and all of this other stuff. So it's always trials and tribulations. It's how you get through them, and how you deal with the stress,
right?
With your stress tolerance. So, I mean, some people, you paint the house the wrong color and they lose their mind and they can't deal with it. They're like, oh, real estate ain't it for me. We've been in houses where the day before closing, we show up to get the meter reading, all the pipes burst in the house. And this is the house that we're buying.
Yeah.
And the whole house is wet. And we just look at each other and laugh. Because I think we've been through so much like other stuff that this stuff is life. It's not even, it's funny almost.
Right.
So if you got a high stress tolerance, and you can deal with like little minor stuff. So
yeah, and even for me, like content creation wise, like I always try to paint the realest picture of all of my experiences in my life. Like if someone ruined one of my houses, then I'll go in there, try to take pictures and say, hey, this is actually a reality of what happens in being part of the business. I think a lot of the times people do want to celebrate the victories with me. And I do post those things because at the end of the day, you have to have things to celebrate to celebrate for, right? So that's why I post a lot of the things that, I've projects that I've completed or deals or closings that I've completed. But I also try to show different sides and facets of the game. One of the things that I saw was you had a building, Aaron, that was like half missing. And I was like, oh shit, that's gonna be that's gonna be a doozy. So let's kind of go into that. Talk about that project a little bit. And
Wait, I'm gonna start off of how that project
Yeah.
even happened. Okay. So I got my Airbnb. Remember, I branched off.
Circle right back.
I branched off and got my Airbnb, bought a property in Vegas, renovated it, put it on Airbnb.
Yeah.
Well, this one got a little jealous and decided, well, I want an Airbnb, so let me go get one.
Let me stop right there. So it started I was like, oh well, I mean, I'll probably go out Vegas with the fellas and I mean, I stay in the Airbnb. And she was like, all right, well, just cash at me the money. I'm like, cash at. I'm like, okay.
I got bills to pay.
I'm like, oh,
no
okay.
one is excluded.
So I'm gonna get my own, and now she can finish talking. Go ahead. So.
But yeah, so yeah, he had to have battle of the Airbnbs because he got a little jealous because I had one. So then he went and bought that sucker. Well, come to find out when they went through, because mind you, I manage most of our projects. So I told him, listen, we're doing a lot that on our side. I need you to, you got to do that one. I can't do it for you. I need you to really step in and do that. So he was like, okay. So, I kind of helped him in the beginning stages and architect and, got him a little set up there. And they said the whole back wall had to come off.
The whole back of the house had to come off all the way down. All the way from the
someone was living there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So the
whole house was like leaning.
Was living in it, but prior to him purchasing it. So the fact that they were living in something that unstable is insane.
Yes. Again, we didn't go with our normal architect that we go with, and we went with this other architect, and they just like messed up everything. And again, now we're like 5 or 6 months out. And we're just back to doing demo. I demoed the house in the first time she came in. They said that it was unsafe and we had to rip the back of the property. We've gone back and forth with L&I, yada, yada, yada. And now we're almost 5 to 6 months in. And now I have to rip off the back of the property and reframe it up. So yeah, again, it happens, I mean, you've seen that other thing on my Instagram. We had people break in our properties.
Yeah.
And it's again, you got to tell both sides of it. It's a flip side of the coin. You can't just show all the glitz and glamour. You got to show the other side that comes with the game. I always say, they say it's a shame, but as they say, it's the game. You're gonna have break-ins. If you ain't had no break-ins or anything, you ain't been in real estate long enough. If you ain't had if you ain't had no tenants destroy stuff, you haven't been in the game long enough.
Right.
Like it's just, and we haven't even been in the game long enough, and we're experiencing that. So we're able to maneuver through the BS, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's also like dealing with the adversity as an investor. I would say it comes in hand with the spirit of being an entrepreneur. Like I think if it's in your spirit and your soul, then you can handle those kinds of and forms of pressure. And that's why I always tell people, like, there's nothing wrong with the 9 to 5. It's Aaron, you're in one. There's a whole stability about it. Technically, although I am not 9 to 5 as a real estate agent, there is stability in my career as far as income goes. It's like if I work a fixed amount of hours, then I should expect a certain level of pay. And, that's kind of what sometimes people are better or more suited for. So,
Yeah,
I
entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, and I see the adversity. I've talked to people that was like, oh man, I had a property and a tenant put a hole in my wall. I was over real estate, and I'm like,
right.
a hole in your wall, that's it.
Yeah.
And you're over, I'm like, well, sell the property to me. I'll deal with the hole in the wall, Pat. That's all. Okay, yeah, give me
Yeah.
that. Give me
Yeah.
that. So,
That's
yeah.
that's why people say that we're in the game to solve people's problems, right? We're big problem solvers, more or less. And are we skilled enough to solve those problems? Because Nick Tang, mentor of mine, always told me you get paid in proportion to the problems that you solve.
Hmm.
Mm,
So
that's a good
so
one.
the bigger obviously the problem that you solve, you rightfully so, you should get compensated for it. So but yeah, I mean, just for our listeners, I know that we all have a lot of things in common as far as real estate goes, but for our listeners, how did we all meet? You guys remember?
Yeah. So me and John were actually jiu-jitsu practitioners, and I know what. It's funny that you say this because I think jiu-jitsu helps a lot with problem solving. Like when you got some 250-pound dude on you trying to smash your face into the mat, you know what I mean? A hole in the wall is not a big problem.
Yeah.
Getting that big dude off you. So yeah, we actually met training martial arts. We're both martial artists. And my wife used to come to the gym, and I noticed John was in real estate too. And we were already connected, but that made the connection a little bit deeper. So
Yeah, and I can say that there are very few people who I have meaningful conversations about real estate, and you guys get it all the time. How do I get into real estate? Where do I start? And these are very common questions for beginners, right? And you were asking not only those questions, Aaron, but you were asking very pointed questions. And every time we met, I was like, oh, I think Aaron's gonna start pulling the trigger soon. But I didn't know you were going to pull the trigger behind Janice's back. That part I didn't know.
That part.
yeah, yeah, because like you know how important mentorship is.
Of
It's
course.
super important, and like because you skip problems. Like the
Right.
mentor has done all have had all of the problems that you had,
Right.
and the mentor will tell you how to get past all those problems or basically get around them. And I found a mentor, and I knew he was legit, and I wanted to pull the trigger, but she wasn't for it, because all the scammers online, this and this and that. She thought,
And we had a wedding to plan.
yes,
Yeah.
but I knew like real estate was the right way to go. So and that's how it was. So I just knew it was the right thing. So
Understood.
and
Understood.
then I'm looking at you're doing your thing too. I'm like, so all these things are pointing towards the same goal. And I don't
Right.
really, I mean, people come into your life for two reasons, for a lesson or for a blessing. So you
Amen.
gotta you got to look at that. So, I mean, there's no way like you're just going to keep running into people buying real estate or in real estate, and it's telling you something. So that's how I looked at it.
No, that's awesome. So let's change gears a little bit. I know that we were talking a lot about real estate investing. I want to briefly talk about credit because I know that you've helped some of people who I referred you to. You've also provided insight on some valuable information on credit. So, um, just for our listeners, can you help us define? I think people have a good idea of what credit is, but can you help us define what credit is and how and why it's so important?
Well, credit is basically, to sum it up, how well you can borrow money and pay it back. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. How well can you borrow money and pay it back? And if you pay it back on time, you get good, what they call payment history.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And because we are talking briefly about credit, how does or let me ask you this, what are some common misconceptions that people have about credit? So let's just say you get a consultation. What are your typical types of consultations that you're getting? And what's a typical question that you're finding yourself answering quite often?
My credit score, credit score, credit score. That's like the number one misconception. Your credit score does not matter. It's not factor off your credit score. It's actually factor off your credit profile. So, and I had to explain that to people, like, it's your credit profile, actually what's on the credit profile. Because you can have a person A over here with a 700 profile, 700 credit score, and a person over here with a 680. And the 680 guy will get approved, and the person with the 700 will get denied. And then they might wonder why. The person with the 700 might be an authorized user on their mom and dad's card, have a Macy's card, and have nothing else on their credit profile. Person B might have a 680 and have a couple accounts, a car note, a home, a couple credit cards, and it's a healthy credit report. So they'll go for a mortgage and go get approved. This person with a 7-something might get denied because they don't have a strong credit profile. Their mom and dad might have a 750. They add them on as an authorized user. They go get a charge card, and then that's all on their credit profile.
Right.
They have a weak profile, high credit score and a weak profile, if that makes sense.
So for a typical client that calls you and that needs that kind of consultation, what are some ways that you can creatively help someone either improve their credit or have better chances of financing or anything along the lines of getting a better credit score? Now, full disclosure for everyone who is listening, credit repair, I feel like, and I don't think you touched upon this, but I'm just going to disclose it. I think a lot of people think of credit repair as something that can be done very quickly. And I feel like a lot of people want it done quickly because they're already in a position where they're trying to either get something or finance for something. So what does the timeline look like for a typical client? But also, what are some creative strategies that you can bump up credit scores for our listeners?
All right, it was like 3 questions wrapped up in that. I'm gonna touch on it. First of all, I tell clients like this. I had one the other day, messed up their credit for like 8 years, and this was like, and they called me and was like, "Yeah, can you fix this in 3 weeks?" I'm like, "Hold up, no, like you messed your credit up for 8 years, it can't get fixed in 3 weeks." Well, you fixed my friends in 7 to 8 months. I'm like, your credit profile doesn't look like theirs. Like mine doesn't look like hers. Yours don't look like mine. Everybody has different things. You might have a bunch of inquiries. This person might have repossessions or student loans. Everybody's credit profile looks different. So you can't really give a direct timeline. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. You can just dispute items and see if they come off. That's it. And if they don't, you can go send a second round of dispute letters, third round, fourth round. And what was the other question you asked?
Well, typically like timeline, how quickly people should expect, but also some creative strategies that you might be able to do to help someone's credit score.
So all right, the client that has 700 something profile, and she couldn't get approved. So what we did was we added a couple credit cards on her report. We did couple secure credit cards to build up a profile, because you need a mixture of accounts. You need to make it look healthy. So we did that, got her some secure loans, and you could do stuff like that. And then we added 1 or 2 trade lines to put the cherry on top. So you could do things like that.
And briefly explain to our audience what a trade line is.
So a trade line, in the credit game, we call them AUs or trade lines. AU is an authorized user. So you can add people on your credit cards, and basically they can benefit from the healthy credit history. But flip side of that is, if I have a messed up credit and I add you on, you can inhabit my messed up credit too. So that can actually drop you. So you got to be careful on
who you're using.
Yeah, who you're using. So yeah, you could do that. But a lot of people have this misconception with trade lines, like it's a fix. And I just told you, let's say you got 10 late payments, 25 hard inquiries, and all these collections. And I have an 850 credit score, and I add you on my credit report. You go from, let's just say you go from a 500 to a 700. You still got messed up credit.
Yeah.
Score just, you know what I mean? So some people have this misconception, like, oh, my score is good. Wow, I don't need credit repair. I'm like, no, all you did was sprinkle sugar on shit.
Yeah.
Still, all of that stuff is still in your credit report. I can see it, and so can banks see it. So you have to fix that stuff and get it removed off your credit report and then add a trade line. A trade line is like putting on deodorant. Credit repair is actually taking a shower.
Mm.
So you have to, I would tell people, take a shower first, then put on deodorant.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because it looks as if like, you know, when I'm like, for example, when I'm looking at tenants and I get their credit scores, I'll look at their credit scores and then, you know, I don't just look at the credit scores and say, oh, I'm done. I actually look at their history, and that's what you're referring to. The history is still there. So therefore, even if someone has a good credit score, their history will still be lingering around if they don't make payments or whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually get people say, oh yeah, I want to sign up for credit repair. Can I get on payment history? And then I look at their payment history. They don't pay anybody. I'm like, no, like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
like, absolutely not.
Right.
No, you're going to be different. I'm like, what about these other 20 people that you didn't pay?
Right.
No, absolutely not. I'm not going to fix your credit and then put you on a payment plan. No, absolutely.
Right. So to segue, Janice, tell us a little bit more about what you got going on, obviously with not with just Airbnb, but with also with coaching and also with classes and some of the programs that you're offering.
Yeah, so I actually our mentor is Doug Dept. So he actually runs a great mentorship program that basically teaches you everything from A to Z, all the ins and outs. That's how we were able to accomplish everything that we were. And because he saw how well that, you know, I was executing, because, you know, I took over the whole thing, right? They actually brought me on to be program director. So I end up teaching. So I actually am one of the accountability coaches. I'm the program director. So I'm running all the back end things of it, you know, putting the events together, you know, the ride-alongs that we have, the meetups that we have, just, you know, that creating that family environment within, you know, real estate, being around like-minded individuals, you know, get in the room type of thing. Absolutely. So, you know, that's what I'm doing with that. And then I branched off into Airbnb. So we actually have special guest hosts that come on that talk about different things, Turo, Airbnb, grant writing, credit, business credit. So we actually have a lot of coaching that goes on in conjunction with Doug as well. So that's how I kind of branched off, and just, you know, I really love Vegas. My family lives there. We really wanted to move out there. That was always the goal. I mean, we're still kind of here right now. So I was like, you know what, I'm getting an Airbnb, and that's how that kind of happens.
Right.
And then I branched off into doing that as well in conjunction with everything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for our listeners, to wrap things up, where can our listeners find you guys?
So you can find Aaron at
Asset Ace, the credit guy, on IG, and you can find her on
AGLR Properties. That's our Instagram handle.
There you go, right behind you guys. There you go.
And then yeah, so the Ace Solutions is his credit repair. And then that's also, you'll see in his link tree when you go into his profile on Instagram. So what, correct to spell that out, it's asset_ace_the_credit_guy.
Yeah, Asset Ace, the credit guy.
Yeah.
Don't worry, links will be in the description below for our listeners.
And then yeah, check out.
I also do funding for people too.
Yeah,
So
business
if
funding.
you need business funding for your business. If you want to get into real estate and don't have the funding, I can actually help you with that.
Or
too.
Airbnbs, I can help with that too.
All right, well, guys, it was a pleasure. It was awesome, and you know, we'll definitely link up again. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.